Hey, hey, how's it going? So here with another virtual production live stream. Do these every week. Sharing progress in the virtual production shared project. This is an open source repo that's just this Unreal Engine project, chock full of useful Unreal Engine things, from environment stuff to really awesome configs of real-time composited real people in 3D scenes, to more recently some MIDI tests. So yeah, we do these streams every single week. We have lots of people jumping in the Discord chatting about awesome virtual production techniques, tips and tricks and things, yeah, we just aim to bridge this gap of knowledge of making awesome real-time content in Unreal Engine. And this kind of recent, most of January for this streams wise, really, the research has kind of been into MIDI and MIDI control. And I'm really excited about controlling stuff with MIDI, because you could just plug in any device and have the ability to, instead of just controlling one thing at a time, you can control however many dials or sliders or buttons you want to assign some controls to. So this is the MIDI device that I'm using at the moment. It's like incredibly old school, but I love it. It's a little bit janky, a little bit broken, so there's some stuff that I've run into that's quite useful to check out, ways to kind of troubleshoot this stuff. This is nice. This number here shows the MIDI channel that's come up, so it's just a real bare bones and really helpful custom MIDI control device. So if you were to like turn this knob, it will say channel 1, etc. all the way through. So it's be like channel 9 or something. The numbers don't quite line up. All of these for mine are like 117, 118, and they actually changed partway through. Loads of weird bugs and fun stuff to figure out, but yeah, it's the kind of essence of this stuff. And also, as I explained in last week's, so the week before last actually, because last week I was going to show this stuff, but had mic issues, so I thought I'd just redo this. But in the first week I showed you this guy Dwayne Arang. This is such an awesome use of MIDI inputs. So he's got the actual wheel. He's running this through Virtual DJ, but you could run this directly from a DDJ 400 or another like controller. He's got this wheel that's doing the actual spinning. So you do a backspin or you do some scratching. Your character is also going to do that. Also hooked up these sliders. Sliders and buttons. He's essentially building out an amazing kind of real-time virtual DJ system, which is absolutely amazing. If you sort of Google like MIDI control Unreal Engine DJ, you can follow this guy's tutorial, which is really great for doing a more advanced kind of MIDI setup. He's mapping every single button from a DJ controller virtually, and he sort of runs through the most simple examples of picking up MIDI signals and the blueprints of how to do this, displaying those MIDI signals, and then working with those signals that it outputs, grabbing the values that it gives, and then using those values to drive things in Unreal Engine, which is awesome. So this is kind of stage 2 of the kind of MIDI journey. Stage 1 of the MIDI journey is using Unreal's kind of existing setup, which is a really useful plugin actually. It's very, very useful. and you can enable it here if you kind of search MIDI. It's this remote control protocol. So this remote control protocol goes for controlling stuff via the web, so you can control parameters in Unreal via like a phone or another computer on the network, which is really cool. And once that's enabled there, you can kind of create down here a remote control preset, which is really nice and simple. And it pops up this window which lets you, once you've got this open, it lets you do something like, say you want to move, not move that one, let's move this. So you want to move this cube. If you have this window open, then you have a little eyedropper next to any parameter that's kind of visible. So if I then click that, it pops up in this. Let's not do that actually, let's do location. Location pops up here, and you can pop out this web app. I've covered this before, but it's quite cool to mention again. You can go design, properties, location. Check this in here. And then from here, control that. Oh, and you can lose it. Hold on, there's losing things. Let's try that again. Try that again with this cube. So go here, location. If we go here, relative location 1, and change this for a slider, maybe. Yeah, dials. Yeah, so now, you know, from the web, I'm controlling this slider of where this is, which is really cool, and it obviously has implications for any value that you want to change in Unreal, which is really nice. But yeah, that's the web app. But this is also used for MIDI and other protocols. So you can find it in this protocols section here. Once you get this up, you get this kind of box here. And then clicking like one of these. Is this the right one? Cube 9. Yeah. So you can click one of these, and then you can add a binding, and then you can see down here I've got a UC16 MIDI controller, so it's recognised that I've got a device, which is nice. And then you can press this button, which is kind of picking up the control change. And then on my U control, I showed where you can see that like the number comes up, and it is 117 on the U control, and then it's also recognized this channel ID. So channel ID is the ID for the slider or the dial or the button that you're changing. That's what the channel ID is. And it's got this channel 1. That's because some MIDI control devices are split between, they might have like separate channels. I guess it's like the limit of the amount of channels they can send, or the amount of channel IDs they can send, perhaps. So if it's got more, it might split up. So your device might have a different channel. It's got device. You can use that, or you can set your own, which is interesting. And then it's got this range. So this is interesting. Should do this for the It's interesting that it's only changing the like X value or whatever value that is. So if we go, so input 0 to 127, that's the numbers that are available in terms of MIDI. MIDI works, every MIDI dial or slider will have numbers 0 to 127. And so you can say that between 0 and 127, I want to go between these two values. So say we like made this just 10. This should now go slower. Okay, it's just disappeared. What does this do? Okay, so I think it's disappeared because the location is like, yeah, is this high. So this is like initial location, and then the location that you want it to end up at. So here it goes all the way down to 1. So that's 1. So if we said like the final location is just like 100 more than that, now it should go slower. Yeah, so you can see it's like, you know, moving less, so it's within less of a range. Bit fiddly with that, but yeah, it might become clearer later on. But yeah, that's the remote control. It's really cool because it's just really quick to assign the MIDI values. And this is kind of the first thing I started playing around with, and it's quite cool. You can just have all of these going for one level. Pretty sure it works on Begin Play as well. Maybe not. This could be because I have another blueprint set up in here. I think in general, if you just have this going on, it should work on Begin Play as well. Oh, I think what I didn't do, you gotta set that, turn it, press it again so it's green. Now that should be kind of locked. Apparently not. Could be because of the next thing I'm going to show you, but that should work really. Probably will work for you. So also, if you don't have this remote control preset set up, you might want to do it in a way that's a bit more like the guy who mapped all of his values to his own DJ USB controller, or you might just want to get more custom with it for another reason. You can also do be able to, oh hang on, I think I went into this and fiddled with it. Huh, interesting. I think maybe this thing about two things. Let's try a reconnect. So 1 and 3. 3 and 1, interesting. I think it was these channels. What happens if I flip these? Okay, I'm not sure. Not sure if there's something I've tweaked here, but I've got another one I can show. See if this one works. Actually getting no MIDI coming through. Interesting. Yeah, I'm still kind of working this out, so also breaking things. This is very custom, so it's quite tricky. What can I do? I can just try and restart this. Could be that this remote control plugin could like conflict with other MIDI that you got going on. Be something to work out. Okay, cool. After a restart, let's see if this other level works. Cool, yeah. So, awesome. So it's an example of another custom MIDI setup, but it is just one blueprint. So the light and the cube are all part of a blueprint. And, you know, it's just nice to have the ability to change all of these things at once. And just, I don't know, it's just awesome, awesome geeky satisfaction thing of just seeing things that you've kind of programmed do stuff based on like a custom control. But yeah, this is like an example of like doing it manually instead of using that remote control preset. It does look like there's some conflict there where once you've opened this, it might not like running the MIDI signal into two places. So it's something to look into. But yeah, let's look at the custom preset, which is a bit more like the custom DJ setup, which, you know, he's got a really good tutorial for that. He does gloss over a couple of things because he's kind of assuming that you will know how to kind of copy his blueprints. But so there's a couple of things like I didn't think about the fact that you have to drag out of here and go create custom event from here. I didn't know how to like hook these in, but worked that out soon enough. But like essentially the setup for making like a custom MIDI setup, this is a really cool first thing that he has sort of shown how to do. You do find MIDI devices, so that's just, you know, custom Unreal script that's going to do that. Then it's going to break found MIDI devices to breaking the details. So for each MIDI device found, it's going to break the details to text, and then this is just a format text, so it's just going to take the thing of this name, so device ID, device name, device ID. It's going to print those to the screen. So first thing, there you've got the found device, and then the 3 is the device ID. So this device is split up into two kind of sections. So it's got a 3 and a 1. So generally I'll just be using the 1 section. I haven't actually found the buttons that are part of the 3, device number 3, but yeah, that's the first bit of code. It's just saying, you know, find this device and show me what it is. So that's cool, and you can use those details, you know. So then, as well as that, we've got event tick. This is where you find, as you turn one control, it's going to tell you some details based on the dial that you're turning. And it's doing this for both the sections of the MIDI controller, but you don't have to do this twice. So this is on tick. It's gonna create a MIDI device controller. It's gonna set this as a variable. It's gonna get the display name, so that's the UC16, etc. Then it's going to bind it to this custom event, and this is where you get some really useful information. Timestamp I haven't really used for anything yet. Event type I haven't really used for anything. That's like, I think that's whether it's a button press or a dial turn or a slider. Channel, that's useful because that's the sections of your MIDI device. So like here where I've got a 1, a 3 and a 1, you probably want to know whether it's that part of the device, so that's worth showing. Control ID, really useful. That's the dial, right? Channel, yeah, control ID, I'm pretty sure either channel or control ID is like the number of the dial that you're turning, so that's like the number that you might see on your MIDI device come up. And then velocity, that's awesome because that's the value from 0 to 127 that is then gonna drive the things that you're driving in your game or simulation or whatever. And then it's just taking all of these, it's printing them to the screen in this format. So the things inside these brackets, when they're the same name as the parameter coming in, it's going to know to put the channel there and put the event type there and put the control ID there. And then that's going to print it to screen. So we've also got a boolean here where you can switch all of these details on and off. It's like enable input control. It could also be like enable debug or something. This is where you now turn a dial and find out which dial it is and then decide what to do with it basically. So with that off, if I turn channel 8, or turn dial number 8, we can see that it's channel 1 on the... You can see that it's channel 1, so it's the first part of the MIDI device. The ID is 8, and the velocity is 0 to 127. So that dial is working really well. We can use that number 8 to say when I turn this dial, I want to do one thing. And the values from 0 to 127 we can use to drive stuff. So next we're actually creating a MIDI device input controller under the same device ID that we set earlier. And then we're going to bind it to this event on MIDI control change. So that's, you know, whenever the value changes. Got this event here, and again you can create this event by coming out of here and going add custom event. It's going to create a custom event with all of the outputs that you want. So then from here you can create little functions. These you do need to create these inputs manually, but they can just copy these. Type and channel ID, I guess they're interchangeable. I guess maybe the type of input, maybe that's whether it's a button push or a slider or something. But yeah, so slider left. So let's do light color. So in this light color, we're taking all of these 3 inputs that we passed through because we want to grab the channel ID. So this is the channel that we're changing. So the number of the dial. This is dial number 9 and channel 1, and we're saying that if this is dial number 9, then we want to do something. In this instance, it's set light color. So we can, we can use the same blueprint that we're doing all our MIDI in to have some actors in there that can do stuff. Oops. So we can drag the spotlight right in and do stuff with it. So get the initial color, and then we're going to change it based on this value. So 0 to 127, remember? And then if you remember the ranges in the first remote control preset that Unreal Engine gives, it has these ranges. So it says, so your dial is 0 to 127. I guess you could set this to be lower, so the second half of the dial doesn't do anything, maybe, if you wanted to. But we're saying if we're going from 0 to 127, we want the actual value coming out to be between 0 and 255. This might make more sense with like a movement slider. So this is the slider that makes the cube go up and down, and it's on channel 8. Let's just run through this again. What's wrong? Failed to compile. Why? I've never had an error message that just says failed to compile and nothing else before. I've got to find it myself. Oh, this is this. Cool. So let's check that these do the things you want them to do. So light color is going to be on channel 9. And, that's the value here. Slider 2, which, whoa, what have I done here? Slider left and slider 2. So I think slider 2 is up and down y axis. That's going to be on channel 8. So let's just double check those. Channel 9 there, channel 9 there, channel 8 there, channel 9, channel 8. So enable input control. Channel 9 is doing color. Oh, that's kind of frozen. Been getting a few freezes like that. I don't know if it's like me doing it too quickly or something. Let's double check that. No, it's not that. Yeah, okay, so channel 9, channel 8. Okay, so that's actually the rotation of that. So we want the cube up and down, we want that one. Because this is good for a demonstration of this kind of mapping this range. So we've got this up and down. That's on channel 15. So it's going to be this slider left, channel 15. So if we look at this range, so 0 to 127, and I've just promoted these to variables, but yeah, okay, let's keep it like that. So these are just here so that they're visible just here. So my out range A is when the slider is at 0, this is going to be at minus 100, which is the cube's actual position, right? Minus 100, yeah, minus 100. So going back to that, if we change this to minus 10 and 10, it's still going to be going between 0 to 127, but it's going to move the cube by less when you do that. So yeah, that's me turning the dial all the way. It's going to move less. So you can change how much you're kind of mapping this to move by. And like, so you want to get it to a specific place, put it there, see what this value is. put the value in this out range. So now it should go like pretty perfectly from the bottom of the floor to the roof. And that's still, I just love that kind of clamp to range. We're going from 0 to 127. That's actually remapping those values to be between minus 100 and 175, or whatever it was. So I really like that clamp to range. I think that's useful for a lot of stuff actually, map range clamped. And then yeah, that's how you would kind of build out some functionality based on these sliders. And then I'll just show you a slightly more complex example, which this is quite a funny exercise because I thought I'd create a bolt camera rig. Bolt style camera rig, which this is like kind of a funny thing because this is essentially created to try and give you the illusion of having almost digital style cameras that have total freedom of movement and can move anywhere. It's got seven rotation degrees of rotation, and you know, as a result you can get these kind of otherworldly 3D style shots, you know, as if it's like a digital 3D camera, a virtual camera. So this is how you would get virtual style cameras in the real world. So I was sort of like, I wanted to make this as an exercise really, but I did realize that, you know, we already have the ability to do that in 3D space. I think what a better thing to do would be to create a kind of camera rig that is a little bit more old school and a little bit like dolly, a bit like a dolly or something, you know, like this, like it's on rails and stuff. So I'm gonna do it for this as well because it's actually simpler than, you know, what I have done. But you know, the idea being that if you have these kind of more limited range of movement, then you kind of step out of the field of looking overly CG and it starts to look more filmic and realistic in that way, because the shots actually are similar to real life dollies, you know. So by basing this stuff on real life and using like simulations of real life processes, you can hopefully get some more realistic shots. So that was kind of the idea of creating like some of these dollies, but kind of went quite far down the route of creating this 7-axis one. It's good exercise, but the result is actually, it might still have some uses, but yeah, it's quite funny. So is this the, whoops. Move this one in here and show this more, yeah, traditional dolly, and then go animation. Yeah. So I kind of did some tests to see how this would look just in Blender first, like just to see if it does do anything that's any better than just using, you know, a camera on its axis. I think there's a slight difference. It's nice to use it like this. So if we look at this camera one, this is doing it traditionally, where I kind of just keyframed like a point here and then a point here. And it zooms out. It's not like terribly measured. It's not like balanced. I think it's a little bit unnatural in the way that it does it. And then like if we were to use this camera instead, yeah, check out this camera instead. This is the same kind of shot, but using the limitations of a dolly. I just think it's quite interesting, like, yeah, using physical processes to create these shots instead. And it was quite a nice process setting this one up, because you just set the rotation, or you set the forward and back axis, then you set like the rotation of this one, and then the rotation of this one, and then, you know, just got like a mini tripod in here as well, so you could do that rotation as well. And yeah, there's no bones in here, it's all just manually parented together. But yeah, you can make this like real physical shot, and I think it does just kind of ground the shot in looking a bit more cinematic. So to move back to this one, it is slightly different, the movement's slightly different, but it's the point that you can get to that point of having something looking quite cinematic kind of quickly, because you're kind of limited to these axes of movement. So that was the idea, and like, I'm going to hook this one up to MIDI as well. And then I thought I'd go and step into this bolt camera because it just seemed awesome and ridiculous. But there's definitely a middle ground to be struck here of giving the bolt camera kind of feel, but this is almost like too much to control. So if we check this out, and we can look down the kind of output as well. So yeah, this has got seven axes. This way. And the one I like is this one. So I really wanted to create that kind of it's like a red carpet celebrity shot, where you're kind of spinning and zooming, and, you know, having this hooked up to MIDI is quite fun, that you can kind of play out these shots live, and, you know, you can control many axes at once. It's kind of fun. But I think it's just like, it gets messy, and I think there's like a kind of almost like a digital control rig that doesn't necessarily look like one of these bolt cranes, that could be a bit better for like a digital use. But yeah, it's just another cool example of some cool stuff that you can map to MIDI. You know, it's really fun just playing with all of those controls. Yeah, cool exercise. There might be something you could do where it's like quicker to kind of keyframe shots. I could go here and then press a keyframe button and save the value of where it is. It could be quite neat. But yeah, it's just that idea that you can have so many different controls going on at once. Kind of love it. I've also just, you know, made a little robot, and that's made me very happy. Yeah. So like this under the hood is like exactly the same as the other blueprint, but yeah, one cool thing to note here is that the MIDI control blueprint is separate to this blueprint. So the MIDI controller here, it's still got the same stuff with the device ID, enable input control, yes or no. And then I've got the bolt rig as an exposed variable, so you can just find that in the level. So it's 2 blueprints this time, and the MIDI controller is talking to the bolt rig. So the MIDI controller here, doing all the same stuff, finding the device, printing all that to screen, MIDI key ID, printing all that, so that I can then go into here and create a custom event that will do my stuff. This time I've sort of organized it a bit better, so because I have 7 controls here, I've put all my controls into one place. This is the same thing that the kind of DJ guy does as well. So all my controls are in one place, and this is just taking in these and just sending them to each axis that I've got here. And then all of these axes are doing just rotation, apart from this one, which is back and forth position. And it's just exactly the same as the other MIDI controller, but instead of calling on components that are in the same blueprint, it's grabbing that bolt rig and calling on components that are in that bolt rig. So in the construction script, I've just got the bolt rig, set that as a variable. And then like now I can pull off bolt rig and go axis 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Oh yeah, I could show you that. I could show you the blueprint in here. Basically took that Blender model that I made and just hooked it up in here. Don't know why the camera's facing that way. And then it's just the rotation of these. So really simple. It's got quite a fun knock-on effect when you've got all these controls. So that's why I've got these axis names, and then the base, that's forward and backward. So it's quite tidy really. We've again got these ranges that we can map. One thing that I found is that if the rotation is totally wrong, like it could be that you want to go like between there and there, but it might only, you see how it stops at the bottom? It might stop at the top as well instead, which would be really annoying, and it wouldn't look right at all. You'd have to spin all the way around to get to the other point. So I found that you can just do like plus 180, whatever your original value is, and then that will kind of spin in the right place. So you can kind of offset the spinning points, I guess. But yeah, it's just really cool that you can set these, you can use one blueprint to be your MIDI controller blueprint. That's just here, sitting on its own. And that's going to go find any actors in your level that you want to control and do stuff with. And you can expose parameters and, set rotation and stuff like that. I did find that, so for this blueprint, I had all these exposed as parameters. So in the construction script for this, I did do this, like set relative rotation, and that's exactly the same as what's in here, pretty much. But you can't just draw on these exposed parameters, from what I can find. Really weird. You can't just say like from here. What were they called? Axis for rotation. So I would love to just be able to do set axis for rotation based on this number. For some reason that's not doing anything when I do that, but yeah. Other than that, it's really cool that you can like set up a little MIDI input kind of interface, and then through that you can then speak to other blueprints in the level, and you can do awesome MIDI control that lets you create crazy machines that might help you, might not. This one, I'm still yet to figure out whether this is truly useful, but I think doing this with slightly simpler camera booms or dollies is probably where it's at, virtual production wise. But still, I have a lot of fun. Oh, also that sideways camera is being annoying now. Why did that go sideways? I can still see the yeah. Oh yeah, I wanted it to be upside down in this position actually, because when it becomes a crane it's going to be the right way up. Put it about there. So now we got this axis which is spinning. We got this axis which opens it up from being like it's either in this kind of hanging or suspended position. It goes from that to being like shooting front on, so then you can do spins, which I really like. Oh, it's gone sideways again. And then you got your two crane kind of arms as well. And then you've also got spinning the whole crane body. And then you got the forward and backward. And then you got combinations of all of them. So yeah, still figuring out whether this is useful. Maybe like a space mouse or something could end up being quite cool. Yeah, fun experimentation anyway. Very dizzying. The only other thing as well is like, because MIDI is set to 0 to 127, it's kind of steppy and choppy. It's not the smoothest. So it might be something to do with interping or timelines that could smooth that out. But yeah, that's my sort of MIDI findings so far. I hope you enjoyed that very long rundown of that, and let me know if you got any thoughts, any other things that you think could be cool to check out virtual production wise or MIDI wise, or just live streaming in and out of Unreal Engine wise. Yeah, that does it for another virtual production live stream. Catch you next time. Cheers.